We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's conservative website. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com. It's Saturday, May 17th, 2014. You are listening to GrokTALK, live streaming at GrokTALK.com and on Ustream. Check it out, sign up, and you can get a little update and alert that'll tell you when we go online. So then you'll know when the pre-show was, which we just finished, and now we're into the real show. And today's guests will include Pete and Jemmy, the tech guy, who is going to talk to us about the Harvard Satanic Mass, or, more to the point, the counter-protest, which was immense. And then New Hampshire House Rep Jane Cormier will be here to talk about First Amendment issues, SB 120 and SB 319, and we'll cover some other topics as well. And in the third segment, Shona Holmes, who is a Canadian healthcare refugee, is going to tell us a story about how she had to flee Canada to get life-saving healthcare in the United States, and she's become a healthcare advocate in that country and is concerned because there will be no place for people in Canada to go when Obamacare has become nationalized healthcare, which is the track it appears to be on. So, good morning, gentlemen. Mike Rogers is back. Now he's back. And Skip, of course, is here. And we are ready to roll.
And we are, once again, since 2006, annoying at least half the population at any one time, especially during these podcasts. And during the podcast, that half can change at a moment's notice. So it is what it is.
Not that the Liberals will ever like us very much. The question is, how many of the Republicans will hate us?
As we were talking about in the pre-show, there's probably one lady who's not liking us all too much right now. Nor is the NRSC, I bet you.
You know, we could go back through the beginning of several shows, and somebody's peeking. And, hi.
Hello. Yes, we are. Oh, that's all right. Come on in. We like guests. What can we do for you?
Hi. We're meeting next door, and we're trying to get on your internet.
Oh.
It's on the CNHT's wireless?
I
will write down the
right
magic
now.
code for you.
It's down right now.
Oh, it's down?
It's down. All right.
Oops.
So
I'm online.
Going to have me on to talk about
On wireless?
No, I don't think I'm on wireless.
No, that's the point.
Oh, okay. Wireless is down.
But we will have to schedule you. Talk to us after the show, and we'll do that.
All right.
But
thank you.
sorry about the wireless, but we're hardwired in. Sorry.
You're hardwired in. Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Oh.
All right, we had a guest already. Look at that.
And this is because we're at the headquarters of CNHT, where all sorts of other meetings
Group CNHT,
are scheduled. And
Grassroots Central.
It is Grassroots Central here in Concord, at the center of government. It is the force for good right here.
So, what were we talking about? Annoying. Oh, yeah, we can be very annoying. So.
Oh, you mentioned the NRSC, and I said,
yes.
Just as...
I remember. I'm sorry, I'm going to lead you into this.
Yeah.
If you go back through the archive of our shows, every other week, maybe, you will get the exact same words from Skip about who we irritated. It's always Kelly Ayotte and the New Hampshire and the National Republican Senatorial Committee.
And the New Hampshire State Party, which refuses to make its members and its elected reps toe the party line. And I don't understand why we should say any Republican is a good Republican, and I got some more on that in a moment. But the National Rhino Support Committee, which I have called it ever since John Cornyn came out in favor of Democrat Charlie Crist in Florida to run against Marco Rubio. It was obvious then that they were choosing sides and choosing badly, and just about everywhere the NRSC puts its weight behind a candidate, they are continuing to choose badly. They're doing so in Alaska right now, putting up a rhino against the wonderful conservative ex-military Joe Miller, who has his own website, joemiller.us, as well as his candidate site. You should read his blog, by the way. He's an excellent libertarian and conservative. And they're doing it all across the country. They will support the squishiest of Republicans, even ones that are not previous senators, against a conservative upstart. And they keep on doing it, and it's any wonder the Senate doesn't represent the states or the people in them.
Yeah, it really comes down to the parties are political in that they only care about the win. They don't care about the past reasons why they wanted to win in the first place. Philosophy? Not so much. Not if it doesn't help them very much.
No, and John Sununu Sr. said, we can count. We understand that we need to get to 51. And my reaction to that is, if 51 asses and seats, you will get some donkeys.
A quick reminder, download the iHeartRadio app or the Stitcher app, or get to TuneIn or iTunes or Spreaker, and you can bring us with you anywhere you go.
And in fact, what was it, a week ago or so, you were listening to the show live using your smartphone as you traveled the highways and byways of New Hampshire.
Actually, I was listening to it on my iPad mini in my hotel room, having a late breakfast, because we'd been to the Marco Rubio event the night before, and Mama and I had stayed over at the wonderful Wentworth there in Newcastle, New Hampshire. If you travel a lot, save your Marriott points. It's worth it.
Oh, isn't this cool? Grok friend Steve Patel just sent me an email, and on the Weekly Standard we have this: Democrat Senator Boko Haram is not Islamist. New Hampshire State Senator Jean Shaheen says Boko Haram, the Islamic terrorist group that has kidnapped hundreds of Nigerian girls from their families and forced them to convert to Islam, should not be confused with Islam.
Right.
How blinkered of a statement can that be, and how blinkered is our senior senator?
I abducted 200 vegans, and I forced them to eat cheeseburgers, and it's nothing about cheeseburgers. There's no cheeseburgers involved in this at all. It's not about Islam. What are you talking about? We're going to convert them to Islam. It's not about Islam.
No, and this is interesting, because anywhere Islamic jihadists carry out
give him a week off and
carry out atrocities, everybody says, no, they're not Muslims. Oh yeah? Then why is it that no Muslim anywhere ever condemns them? Yeah. That's number one. And by the way, Bill Maher, the America's foremost anti-religionist,
vitriolic, hyperbolic,
anti-religionist, is calling out the Democrats for dereliction of duty for failing to take up arms against Islam.
Yeah. Here's some more from our senior senator. I agree, and I'm glad you made that point. Clearly, we need to make sure Islam is not confused with some of these horrible terrorist acts that have been and continue to be perpetrated by terrorist groups.
Yeah, like when people protest outside her office.
Has she even listened to what these guys say? There's a reason why they're forcing these 300 girls to convert to Islam. Islam is part of their outlook. So, this is where we're going to call our enemies our friends. We have to, they're just a poor victim group.
How does she feel about the clitorectomies?
Yeah.
That's the white male Christian war on women, I guess.
Yeah, but it's being perpetrated by Muslims.
Yeah.
Muslim insurgents into the Christian war on women. Excellent.
Yes. Let's go.
Anyway,
let's go a stage further, shall we? In Africa, the UN finds itself in a lot of places, supposedly to keep the peace, manage refugee camps, and do all sorts of good works that cost the Western nations a lot of money. What, in fact, ends up happening is rape, pillage, and all sorts of mistreatment of the people they're supposed to be watching over. We call that a crime. Why do we not call it a crime when a bunch of Islamists do it and add as the icing on the cake converting these kids to Islam?
Well,
and by the way, these areas of Africa have a large and long-lasting French influence. You don't think that Boko Haram means something like lots of harem?
I don't know about that.
Give me the women.
Would that be Boko Haram? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They actually have a different name.
They have a full, long Islamic name, and it basically means we're Islamic terrorists.
Yeah.
That's really what their full formal name means. I actually read it last week. I think you probably read the same article I did.
Right, and
I can't remember
it's
where it
about
was.
This long,
it's huge.
And it talks about dawah and jihad. So for Jean Shaheen to be oblivious oblivious to the fact or
you know what she should
or hiding
suggest
the
they
truth.
do? You know what they need? They need weather stripping. That's what they need. That'll fix it.
Yeah, or they need more Planned Parenthood.
More Planned Parenthood.
No,
Then those girls wouldn't even be there.
Well, there was another there was another article that I read that Kansas has defunded Planned Parenthood. Absolutely.
Guess
and I
what?
said, "What?
Guess what?
You don't have a Gene Shaheen?"
Stop. We didn't record any of that.
Well, I'm recording it.
Okay, I'm going to need that. Hey! Okay, keep going.
He forgot to push the button.
Make sure you send me that ASAP.
Well,
Actually, I'll just grab a copy of it. And
that's okay. We can do that.
we'll build it from there.
Yeah.
All right.
I forgot to press the button. Hey, now we're on the recording, and we're also on the video. That's why we do video.
This is the backup. This is backup B and backup C
Okay?
to plan A.
And hopefully they're recording. I know
yes,
you
they
can
are.
see it, but
I can see it, unless it's
Good.
lying to me.
it might be.
It
might be.
Like
Maybe,
Democrats.
Maybe, yeah.
They can't campaign on the truth.
No,
Right.
they can't.
Because if they campaigned on what they actually wanted to do, nobody would vote for them. Right, Gene Shaheen?
And one of the
There, we're making the NRC happy. We're beating up on Gene
Gene
Shaheen.
Shaheen.
one of the,
When do we
one-
switch back to Kelly Ayotte?
We can always beat up on Gene Shaheen.
No, we can leave her alone for a little bit. I'll come back around to Republicans in general in just a moment.
We are the ADD bunch of bloggers.
But while we're on the subject of leftists and Islam, isn't it interesting that our leftists are perfectly happy to get into bed with Islam when it's all about bringing down the United States, when it's making common cause as opposed to common core? But do they really think that all the things that the left, stand for, homosexuality, rampant libertinism, and all sorts of cultural rot, are going to be tolerated when the Islamic takeover occurs? They will literally be first up against the wall when the revolution comes. So why on earth would they want to support Islamic terrorists who, if they got the chance, would take over the United States and get rid of the leftists first?
I know why. Back a few years ago, they did make a movie of 9/11 and the plane that was that the Americans tried to recapture from
One that
the
crashed
terrorists.
in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Flight
there was
93,
one
was it?
Flight 93.
Todd, what's his name, and let's roll?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they did portray one guy as being the appeaser. That, well, just give them what they want and they'll leave us alone. Give them what they want. And he started to stand up and, give in and yada, yada, yada. And I remember one American just reaching over and knocking the snot out of him.
Yeah, they'll leave us alone till we're dead.
Yeah, and that's basically it. I think that the left truly believes that they can outrun the bear. We all know that you can never outrun the bear, that the only way that you can take down the bear is if you turn around and you have your triple-aught deer slug and right through the head. I mean, you need the weapons to be able to take care of them. You cannot run away. You cannot appease a mad bear. You either kill it or it kills you, but that's what they're hoping for.
I'm
Right.
wondering.
And thinking of which, just look at the way Putin is flexing his muscles and growling at all of Europe. And, once again, we have, Barack Chamberlain there in the White House appeasing for all is worth, doing diplomacy via hashtags, if you please, and completely failing to lead or offer any credible threat. And it brings back the famous saying of Winston Churchill that appeasement is like feeding the crocodile, hoping he'll eat you last. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing with Islam.
It just occurred to me that if we all registered as Democrats and pretended to be Muslims, that we could say anything we wanted and they wouldn't be able to complain.
But we have the wrong.
Well, not quite. We'd
I'm
be
just
able
saying
to
as
We're not transgendered.
Oh, well,
not quite. We'd be able to criticize Christianity as registered Democrats and Muslims. But
Muslims say bad things about Barack Obama all the time, and they don't get.
Yeah. By the way, you've been having a whole lot of fun with Michelle Obama's hashtag sign,
Yeah, don't ever put a sign on the internet, or somebody will change what it says.
and you have multiple times.
So far, I got another one I'm thinking about right now that we brought up Shaheen in this Boko Haram thing.
Yeah, I did put one up for you. This one's from Special Forces guys. You'll have to
saw
take a
that.
look at it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a small version of that during the week, and I couldn't get a good enough resolution to put up there.
Yeah, Black 5 had that. One of the Bill blogs I read.
It's a nice picture of her in high def in the Oval Office, you know,
and looking sad too,
looking
and
sad.
and we're talking about Benghazi, and of course, and Trey Gowdy took the press apart this week.
Oh, that was awesome.
And did you notice our non-leading junior senator standing in the background as a even more junior congressman? Totally took the press apart very politely. He said, "You didn't tell me how to do my job when I was a prosecutor in the Carolinas, and I'm not telling you how to do your job. But do you know why this and this and this and this?" And by the time he was finished, they were completely dumbfounded in 3 minutes flat.
It was fantastic.
Oh, and somebody must have given him the word about his suits. He was wearing a really nice dark gray conservative suit instead of his usual car salesman in broad stripes.
Well, here, we'll play a little bit. We have it here.
Thank you, Jimmy. We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act in Benghazi. And make no mistake, justice will be done. That was the President of the United States over a year ago. We're investigating exactly what happened, but my biggest priority now is bringing those folks to justice. That was the President of the United States over a year ago. No one has been arrested. No one has been prosecuted. No one has been brought to justice. We don't even have access to the witnesses. You and the media were good enough for my 16 years as a prosecutor not to tell me how to do my job. And so far in Congress, y'all have been good enough not to tell me how to do my job. I'm not telling you how to do your job. But I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you can't answer these questions, then I'll leave you to draw whatever conclusion you want to draw about whether or not the media has provided sufficient oversight. Can you tell me why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi the night that he was killed? Do you know? Does it bother you whether or not you know why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi? Do you know why we were the last flag flying in Benghazi after the British had left and the Red Cross had been bombed? Do you know why requests for additional security were denied? Do you know why an ambassador asking for more security days and weeks before he was murdered and those requests went unheeded? Do you know the answer to why those requests went unheeded? Do you know why no assets were deployed during the siege? And I've heard the explanation, which defies logic, frankly, that we couldn't have gotten there in time. But you know, they didn't know when it was going to end. So how can you possibly cite that as an excuse? Do you know whether the president called any of our allies and said, "Can you help? We have men under attack"? Can you answer that? Do any of you know why Susan Rice was picked? The Secretary of State did not go. She says she doesn't like Sunday talk shows. That's the only media venue she does not like, if that's true. Why was Susan Rice on the 5 Sunday talk shows? Do you know the origin of this mythology that it was spawned as a spontaneous reaction to a video? Do you know where that started? Do you know how we got from no evidence of that to that being the official position of the administration? In conclusion, Congress is supposed to provide oversight. The voters are supposed to provide oversight. And you were supposed to provide oversight. That's why you have special liberties, and that's why you have special protections. I am not surprised that the President of the United States called this a phony scandal. I'm not surprised that Secretary Clinton asked, "What difference does it make?" I'm not even surprised that Jay Carney said Benghazi happened a long time ago. I'm just surprised at how many people bought it.
Steve McDonald here. Ever notice how some Democrats get all worked up about photo ID? No, not the ID you use to access all those government services like unemployment, Social Security, welfare, and even Obamacare. I'm talking about photo ID to vote. And I don't think it's the photo part. Democrats love photos. President Obama's got a real nice one of himself with the pretty blonde Danish prime minister that he took while his wife Michelle was sitting right next to him scowling. So if it's not the photo, it must be the ID. but the only reason to object to the ID would be if you were either not who you said you were, or you didn't live where you said you lived, which might explain why some Democrats get so upset when you ask for one. I say some Democrats because a recent poll in New Hampshire reported that almost 60% of registered Democrats and 75% of all registered voters thought voter ID was a good idea. So if it's not the New Hampshire residents, or even Democrats who oppose voter ID, it must be the kind that can't get elected unless they can get people to vote in your town who have no business voting there. I'm Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on it for you. All right, so those were some strong words from Representative Gowdy.
Absolutely.
Indeed so. And say the media was left in a bleeding puddle on the floor, which is why you didn't hear any questions at the end.
I wonder if they were just thinking, well, just let him run out of steam. But I do wonder if they were asking themselves, how do we get ourselves out of this?
Well, that's the thing.
This is why you have special freedoms.
Right. Yeah, we let you, say whatever you want about people, basically, because you're supposed to report this stuff and talk about it and ask these questions. And these are major corporations with millions of dollars invested in reporters and resources all over the world to investigate and study and report. And they don't do that. They just report what they want.
Yeah.
So those are all good questions.
Well, as Glenn Reynolds of Vincent Pundit says, they're just Democrats with bylines.
Right, and nobody knows about Benghazi still. A majority of the population of the United States has no idea about this story.
Well,
really.
They don't know enough, but they're beginning to want to know. Polls suggest that it's well over 50% now that want this investigated.
Yeah, but look at the IRS. I think the IRS scandal is one of the biggest ones that we've ever had, because it isn't just a small little cabal like Watergate was, where there were a few guys surrounding the president that committed crimes. You've got an entire... You've got the most hated, most powerful agency in the U.S. federal government has now become weaponized, that if you say the wrong thing just because of political difference, you are in for all kinds of pain. Is this what the founders thought the federal government should be? Stay in line, or we audit you over and over and over again? That we come after you, we harass you, we do everything we can to make your life absolutely miserable, to the point where we get what we want, which is you'll shut up.
I don't know. It's sad.
It's really, really bad. And talking about weaponized, I mean, the IRS has its own semi-militarized platoons. But the news this week was that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the food inspectors of the government, have decided that they need to be weaponized too. Now, listen, I have nothing against these folks that maybe occasionally go into dangerous situations carrying sidearms. Everybody's entitled to self-defense. What we're talking about here is a request for, a solicitation for bids for 40 caliber Smith & Wesson style submachine guns, lightweight folding stocks, telescopic sights, flashlight mounts, night sights, extra size trigger guard for use by gloved fingers, slings.
Scary rifles.
And 30 round magazines, because for the feds 30 rounds is legal everywhere.
And ballistic armor was the second one that they put out. And let's see, who was it?
You got that Queen clip anywhere, Steve? Out of the doorway the bullets rip? Because what I wrote was, who's that creeping around the barn?
Yeah,
is it a friendly USDA inspector?
Friendly USDA inspector. Moo.
Well, here's something
or those subversive cows, click, clack, moo, which, by the way, a kid's story, no less, is required reading over at the Department of Labor to put them in the properly rebellious union frame of mind.
Yeah.
Perfect.
He's having fun again, folks.
I'm always having fun.
Well, here's a quote that should kind of put us at ease, those of us who do believe in the Second Amendment for the right reasons. A free people ought not only to be armed and disciplined, but they should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government. Do you know who said that?
Whom?
I
don't know. I'm asking
Probably
you.
Hamilton.
George Washington.
Well,
our first president and first really major general. Basically, one would think that would be a stalwart of the government, said, don't trust the government. And that, I have no problem if I could afford an A-10. If the U.S. Air Force wants to get rid of their A-10, I'd be happy to go ahead and buy that from them, just as long as they don't demill the plane. I mean, why you look at it, you see all these leftists going, why do you need that? Which is the first tip of they want to take your freedom away, because they don't understand that. It's like, I have no problem with anybody owning pretty much any kind of armament that's a law-abiding citizen, because they're only going to use it within the confines of the law.
And that's it. That's exactly the point. It's about self-defense, including self-defense against government if the worst comes to the worst, such as marauding USDA inspectors, for goodness sake.
Well, the reason why the left does that is because they never, ever, ever want to allow a threat to government, because that is, let's put it bluntly, that is their religion. The left is much less religiously oriented than the right, but I think mankind is hardwired to believe in something, and if you don't believe in God, you're going to believe in something else. And we see that with the environmentalists. They believe in the worship of Gaia, and they wish to bend us to their own religion. And we see those people who worship big government believing that it is all beneficial.
Right.
And we kind of go, not so much.
Well, the cult of the state as religion is a hallmark of the left anyway. Over and above that, I mean, graven images, personalities, government, these are the things that the left worships, because if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything.
Well, certainly I think with President Obama, we have definitely seen the rise once again of the cult of personality.
Well, absolutely, because what else is there? I mean, he's an empty suit. He learned everything he knows about the world. He learned in a faculty lounge. So,
Well, and on the left, his mom was definitely of the left. His parents were of the left. We have countless stories from his own hand. Look who he went after when he went to college. He went for the Marxists and the communists to pal around with, and the disaffected.
The Chicanos, the Marxists, the communists.
Yeah. So it's a case of that's how they view themselves, and we see the Democrat philosophy now even coming into the Republican Party, where more and more we're seeing identity politics invading somewhere where it shouldn't. But that's a whole other segment all on its own.
Yeah, and next segment, Jane Cormier will be with us.
Well, no. Got one more first. Jane's on at 10.
Oh, Jane's on at 10, I'm sorry. Pete and Jemmy, we're going to give him a buzz during the break and talk about the counter-protest to the Harvard Satanic Mass that didn't really happen. But it almost happened, and boy, didn't that stir up some folks.
Yeah.
There were a lot of folks. I watched that. I went over to go visit the tech guy. He's got a nice blog, a lot of video, and we're going to talk to him about it in a couple seconds. So stay tuned. This is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald with Skip Murphy and Mike Rogers.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. If you have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
The Center for Redress of Grievances, LLC, was established officially November of 2012 for the purpose of becoming a media outlet for those individuals who believe and have documentation that they've been unjustly treated by local, state, or federal government agencies. Our mission is to document their stories and to get them out to the public. By collecting and organizing this data, the Center for Redress will be able to better show the public and our legislature that there are issues with some of our government agencies that may be widespread and need to be addressed. Although we are not a nonprofit, we do provide all of our services at no cost to our clients. All of our services may include screening interviews, documentation gathering, audio video of court hearings, and production of Speak Up, which is our television show. We're funded exclusively through sponsorship of Speak Up and our advertisers on our website. We hope to help those individuals who, with well-documented stories, need to be heard with credibility when the other agencies and media sources turn a deaf ear to them. You can go to our website at www.centerforredress.com and check us out. Anything you would like to donate is truly appreciated, and we will put it to good use.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to GrokTALK.
Grok TV.